Hello again. There. We are now going to talk about the costs of production. I'm going to start off with the difference between accounting profit and economic profit. And I'm going to try to preface this with this thing I've mentioned in the past. A nickname for economics is the dismal science. And this chapter really, the intro to this chapter really shows us why economics has that label. Since we're talking about accounting profit, what I did was went to a highly academic source and found the definition of accounting. The highly academic source I went to was I Googled it. The accounting is the process of systematically recording, classifying, verifying, and summarizing business transactions, and presenting this information in periodic, interpretive, financial statements and reports. That's what accounting is, at least according to Google. Economics is the social science concerned with the efficient use of scarce resources to achieve their maximum satisfaction of economic wants. That's according to McConnell and Brew. So we have this thing that is about categorizing, identifying, labeling, and reporting very firmly. And then we have this other thing that is a social science about optimizing resources according to our economic wants. And so this leads us into this difference in how we might measure outcomes across these two fields. You see, an accounting profit is straightforward. It's net income minus net costs. That's what's net. That's what you take away. That's the profit. So it's your total revenue in dollars and cents minus everything you paid out in bills over that period of reporting. What you brought in revenue, dollars and cents, minus what you paid in bills in dollars and cents, everything with a paper trail. That is an accounting profit. And an economic profit incorporates all of that plus additional costs, because it includes what are called the implicit costs. Implicit, the root word there is implied. So it has those explicit costs, just like the accounting costs, for which there are receipts, right? The things that the bills the firm has to pay, there are receipts for those. Those are explicit costs. Implicit costs, there's no receipt for those. They are implied costs. And these are things, I like to say, the costs that your spouse might get mad about. They're the things your spouse would point out and say, you are spending too much time doing that. Time doing that doesn't have a receipt. It's not an accounting cost, but it is an economic cost. What I'm referring to, if we want to use a 10-cent term to describe it, is opportunity costs. Economic profit is revenue minus all of those explicit costs that the accountant sees, minus the implicit costs, or what you could otherwise be doing. So since it's subtracting more, it's a lesser amount of profit almost every time. Another way we could look at that would be like this. Here's how an economist views the firm. Economist. Here's how the accountant views the firm. Let's say this height will be the same for both of them. Whoops. These are explicit costs. These are the bills of the firm. There are receipts for these things. There's a paper trail for these things. Okay? And let's say here is how much money, this level is how much money the firm brought in. And the economist and the accountant both see the same thing. This up here, this big box that I just created being revenue, and we can separate them along the line of the accountant and the economist, sure. They both see that the same, but the thing that the dismal scientist sees that the accountant doesn't see is implicit costs. It's another form of cost. I think that spouses point this out in our lives. Spouses and economists, they're together on this one. You're spending so much time working at that. Over here, the accountant doesn't have the time that you're spending working on that. It's a real cost. Our spouses note it for us. The economist notes it for us. The accountant does not. Let me see if I can bring this home with an example. I have lime trees growing upstairs on my deck that I've had now for almost 15 years. I have 3 of them. 2 are the originals. 1 is an offspring of those 2 that came along probably about 6 or 8 years ago. See, when I went to the Keys for my honeymoon, my wife and I did, like, it's almost cliche, we did like a lot of people do. We brought back a bag of limes, and I like to grow plants. So we were having some of the beverages for whom this virus could be named that I don't actually like that brand anymore because they advocate glass on the beach, and so I don't drink that brand anymore. It couldn't have happened to a better company to have a virus named after them, in my opinion. But anyway, we were having some of those beverages, so we had some limes with them, and I had some leftover lime seeds. And I pushed those leftover lime seeds in some potting soil, and they sprouted. And I don't like to see anything go to waste, so I kept them alive. And there were 4 originally. 2 have died, but 2 are still alive, and they're now bigger than I am. They're up there on my deck. By the way, key limes are actually called Mexican limes. That's their actual breed. And they're thorned plants. So this is a real labor of love. I have these giant things that I have to bring in every winter because they're frost intolerant. And I have these, and they have a 3rd tree now, so it's about 4 foot tall. So I have basically a forest up there on my deck that I have to figure out what to do with each winter. And every once in a while, I actually produce a lime. Now, I like that Simply Limeade, you know, that one with the green cap backed by the dairy products at the grocery store. I love that stuff. It's a good product. And I could make it with my occasional lime that I am able to produce. And I live, the back of my house faces a fairly frequented road, fairly high traffic road with space there where I or my kids could set up and sell limeade, homegrown, fresh squeezed limeade. We could sell that right out here with my limes. So let's think about what my costs are to do that. I would need cups. They're pretty cheap. I would need water. That's dirt cheap. The limes I would need, but if I have a yield, which isn't very good, but if I did, I wouldn't be paying for them. And I have to buy sugar. So I have to buy cups and sugar. So here are my explicit costs. So if I go back there and I spend all day sitting at a table that I could drag out, I already have the table, I have a chair, I'm sitting in it now, I could sit out there and do this. I could bring out my water and my cups and my sugar and my limes, and I could make limeade for people back here on the side of the road, and I could sell this stuff, let's say for $2 a cup. And in the course of the day, maybe I could find 4 or 5 people who would stop probably feeling sorry for me. And let's say 5 people stopped and bought 5 cups at $2 a cup. I would have $10 in revenue, and my costs of that would be like in pennies in sugar and cups. So I would have like, let's say $9 in profit, right? A $9 accounting profit. I made 10, cost me $1. The accountant would say, that's great. That is 1,000% return on investment. That is a great accounting profit. The economist would say, you spent all day to make $9. This drawing wouldn't even do it. It would be the implicit costs of spending all day are through the roof for me. I don't have all day to spend on the side of the road. That's how we would phrase it. But what we mean by that is we have other things more valuable to do. And those are costs because we would be giving those up to do that. So we would be operating, while we would have a great accounting profit, we would be operating an economic loss if we did something like that. And that's how economists view the world, hence the name, the dismal science.